Now, I think coronavirus has really put an emphasis on ESG. So how are you incorporating ESG in your investment approach, Ross?
So we believe that ESG is integral to an emerging and frontier markets investment approach. For us, there are three areas that we put particular emphasis on. So one of those is alignment, alignment of management or controlling shareholder with all of us as minority investors in a business. So ideally, we'll see that alignment in the form of long-term equity-based compensation plans, which have got sensible targets and timeframes in place. The second thing that we're looking for is good capital management. So we want to see management teams running efficient balance sheets and returning cash to shareholders where appropriate, and certainly not using inappropriate levels of debt. So capital management is the second point. And then the third point is that we're looking to ensure that the companies we invest in are appropriately mitigating environmental and social risks, and thereby minimizing risks to the business in the long term. So all three of those are important. They're all elements that we consider carefully when researching and investing in businesses.
Yeah, I think inappropriate levels of debt is something that we've really seen now through this crisis, the companies suffering as a result of that.
Yes, that's something that becomes particularly apparent, as you say, in a time like this. And it is a general characteristic, I would say, of emerging markets that balance sheets tend to be more conservatively managed than those in developed markets.
Now, Andrew, how do you incorporate ESG into your investment approach?
Well, one of our core beliefs and one of our starting points is that we're responsible stewards of our clients' capital. And the way that we define stewardship means that assets are entrusted to us and we safeguard them, and our ambition should be to ultimately return them in better condition than when we received them. And in addition to our belief in being responsible stewards, we also believe that ESG factors do create risks and opportunities for companies, as Ross just outlined. It's therefore in our clients' interests for us to consider these factors when investing in a company. And it's also the companies themselves need to manage these factors appropriately. So when we look at that in practice, what it means is we're seeking to understand management motivation. We're looking at the governance mechanisms. Are these appropriate? How does a company create value? We need to understand the culture of the business and also identify material ESG factors that can impact a company's ability to generate sustainable returns. So ultimately, we want to assess management's understanding and preparedness for these factors and then how they themselves incorporate them into their strategy. Now, I think it's also important to state that stewardship and ESG integration, these aren't about imposing our values or our beliefs on clients' portfolios. I think rather it's a framework for an objective assessment of a company's management and its future business prospects. And I think it's also important to state that we're not simply screening for best-in-class attributes at any price. We typically think of ourselves as pragmatic investors. We recognize that the world is imperfect, and the perfect company rarely exists. But there are also rewarding return opportunities by investing in companies with good operating models, but potentially imperfect ESG performance, where our active ownership and engagement can achieve change and positive outcomes for all stakeholders.
Yeah, well, positive outcomes for the stakeholders is clearly absolutely critical.
I think we're now evolving. I think that the world that will have emerged from the coronavirus will be very different. And I think one of the ways it will be different in terms of societal expectation of what corporates are there for and what good corporate governance looks like. And I think that's going to be quite a fast evolving model over the coming years.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that would be very interesting to see the development of that.